Welcome to Grombacher's Video Art Informational Series. I'm Professor Michael Coblin. This video will demonstrate the Fatavolin rule of oil painting. This will help ensure stable paint films that will withstand the test of time and add value to your work. The Fatavolin rule is important if you're painting in layers. There are two basic approaches to oil painting. The first is alla prima, which is completing a painting in one session by painting onto wet paint. The second is painting in layers over dried paint films for several days or weeks. Simply put, the Fatavolin rule states that each painting layer of an oil painting must contain a little more oil than its dry underlying layer. Applying the rule will ensure that each layer of the dried paint film will bond with the underlying layer and will also enhance the flexibility. This is critical in preventing cracking or flaking of a painting as time goes by. Now let's examine how oil film reacts during the drying process. Oils don't dry by evaporation like water-based paints, but instead they harden through a complex series of chemical reactions. The chemical reactions begin when oxygen and oil come in contact, causing the oil molecules to attach to one another, forming long chain-like molecules. This reaction is called polymerization. As the hardening of the oil films continue, polymerized oil chains will form chemical bonds with neighboring oil chains that will eventually build into a vast crisscrossing network. Now let's demonstrate the proper way to do a multi-layer oil painting. This panel has been prepared with Grombacher acrylic gesso as a painting ground. This particular acrylic gesso is very well suited as a ground for oil applications and can be used to prime either canvas or rigid supports. This drawing was done with charcoal and made permanent by tracing over it with Venetian red diluted with solvent to a consistency of cream. When the drawing was dry, a wash of diluted Venetian red was applied. This wash is the leanest layer of color that will be on your panel. When the wash is dry, you can begin painting Fatavolin. Here is one way to do it for a painting that will have 3 coats of paint applied. Remember, we'll always be painting over dried layers. Adding a medium with a decreased amount of solvent during the application of each layer is the simplest way to adhere to the Fatavolin principle. Add 50% solvent. In this case, I'm using turpentine to the painting medium. This is oil painting medium 3, which speeds up the paint's drying time. This reduces the medium's fat content. Use this particular batch of diluted medium for the entire first layer of your painting. Keep in mind that adding large amount of medium to the paint is not necessary. Adding small amounts should not provide a noticeable change to the characteristics of the paint, but will keep the oil content in control. When you apply your next layer of paint over the dry film, decrease the amount of solvent by adding approximately 25% more medium to the solvent. Then on the final application, remember, always over dry to the touch film. Use very little solvent, about 10% solvent to 90% medium. By progressively decreasing the amount of solvent in the medium you use for each consecutive layer, you will be guaranteed to be applying Fatavolin paint films. Remember that after the last layer of the painting is dry to the touch, you must allow the painting to cure for at least 6 months before varnishing. And if the painting contains impasto areas or has had paint applied undiluted from the tube, you must wait 1 year before varnishing. Thanks for joining us today, and look for other informational downloads right here at grombacherart.com.